see a game.
This is my first game, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have kids now, and like baseball season comes around, I'm at their games, and then up until that point, I was playing baseball throughout the summer, so it wasn't really like that I couldn't go or I could go. It was like I was playing the game at the time, so it's cool coming back, and especially under these circumstances, and seeing the kids play and being in the old stomping grounds, man, it's really nice.
So when did Cameron or someone from Northwood reach out to you to tell you that this was?
So it kind of popped up last year. He was like, "Hey, what?" It was like one of those, "Hey, what do you think?" type of conversations, and I was like, "Man, I loved it," and I was actually kind of thrown off by it, because I was like, "Man, you think as a kid, it's like, oh, you got your high school number retired, and you like kind of like and then it happens, and you're like, man, this is a really, really awesome situation, opportunity to be able to have something like this." And it kind of just evolved over time, and then he was like, "Hey, we're doing it," and I was like, "Cool, I'm in." And it kind of unfolded from there, and now we're here.
Oh yeah. And then now you're here, and you got to see of course those parts and a lot of your former teammates, your family as well, all coming here to celebrate you. Just how does that feel to see the community be here?
These people that I see right now, they've always been there for me, and so that's why, like, it wasn't really a surprise to me to see the people that were out here, because every offseason that I came home when I was grinding through the minor leagues and stuff, these were the same people that I saw and I talked to, and they're the people I feel comfortable around, and the people I associate myself with. So it's just another day in Pittsboro for me.
And I know you were just talking with Rick about your last game, and I know that one, of course, you talking about how that isn't the best memory.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you, what is your favorite memory from your time on this diamond?
To be honest with you, we had a core group of guys that I played with from the time I was in Little League all the way up to my senior year. And just to hit every step of the way with those guys in our senior year, it was kind of like, hey, we're here now. Let's try to do something. I think that was the coolest experience for me is, that group of guys I came up with, we stayed with each other the whole way. And so you can't really ask for more when it comes to that.
Yeah, I do want to ask more about your senior year, right? I know it's a big one for you. That was the year you threw the 97 mile-per-hour pitch in that conference game. And then you commit to App State, but you also have the MLB teams coming in and knocking on your door. Just what was that year like for you? Just dealing with the whirlwind of things.
So a little bit leading up to that, all the crazy travel ball and stuff, and like, hey, we'll get you some recognition, we'll get you some scouts looking at you. It really wasn't until Rick sat all the seniors down and all the juniors down and was like, hey, tell me who you want me to call, and I'll call them, and it's up to you on how far you go past that. And I think I'm more grateful for that conversation he had with us than anything else, because I think all it took was I think we had a coach show up from NCA&T, and he had a radar gun, and I popped a couple good numbers on it, and then all of a sudden it was like the next game I was in, every single team from the major leagues was there. And so, it's just like those little things, that you don't really think along the way. You always think that hey, it's going to be in front of all these scouts or at this tournament or whatever, and really it was just in the woods in North Carolina, somewhere in Pittsboro, that it kind of all unfolded. And so it was cool how it kind of evolved and how it came to be.
Yeah, and as a 17-year-old kid, like you said, you're going to these games, and now you got major league teams looking at you.
It was surreal. Yeah, I had some heart palpitations to be honest with you, going into some of the games, because you would go to pitch and you can see, like, from the mound, you're looking dead into the crowd, and all of a sudden you see all these radar guns pop up, and it was intimidating at first, and but you kind of was like that reminder, like, hey, this is happening. Just take a deep breath and try to take it all in. So that's what I did.
Yeah. And then, before that, though, all the way back in your freshman year, and I was just talking to you about this, your first game, after that game, you get sent to JV. And, of course, in the PR message here, they said that fueled you. Just what was going through your mind in that moment when you got sent to JV, and how did that kind of spark you?
There was no way I belonged in varsity at the time. Like, I I was like this 140-pound spindly kid, and I honestly it was just a stroke of I don't want to call it luck because it took a series of events to get there, but like we had a senior go down in like gym basketball, and then the guy that backed him up, I think he twisted his ankle in gym basketball, and then we had a guy that was a class ahead of me that would have been the third guy up, and then he like did the same thing. So it was crazy that like all our infielders went down like a week before the season started, and they're like, "Hey Bryce, you're up, you're starting." So I'm out there, and I'm just my eyes are the size of donuts, and I'm just like, man, I do not belong here right now. And of course, as a freshman, man, you look at like a junior and senior, they look like grown men to you. And so it was an experience, and I'll never forget standing out there and feeling like I was this big. And so it was, that's how it kind of came to be. It was honestly luck that I was even out there, but it was nice to kind of start that process early.
Yeah. And then fast forward 4 years, right? You're with the Marlins in pro baseball, and you kind of at that same point again, right? Where you're starting from the beginning. How was the transition from high school, being 17-year-old to now being with professional athletes, and how was the talent difference that you experienced at that time?
That's a great question. Talent-wise, you feel in over your head because you get there and every single guy is doing the same thing you're doing. There's not really a big separator. Physically, I was already, I was kind of blessed physically. I just had a bunch of size on me that I was able to add like my senior year and kind of go into it. So physicality and stuff like that, it wasn't anything crazy, but just to see, go in and you think, you're this big, rough, tough guy with all these talents and stuff, and you come in and the next guy's doing it better than you are. That's when it starts kicking in of like, hey, maybe I need to start getting it together in between the ears. And the talent always comes secondary in professional sports because it really is like it's a mental game all the way through. Because if anything, I had more exposure playing high school baseball than I did my first 2 years in pro ball, because we were playing on the backfields of spring training facilities at 12 o'clock in the afternoon every single day in South Florida in the dead of summer. So like, it's like being in an oven on top of nobody being at the game. Like if somebody's girlfriend showed up to the game, you were like, heck yeah. Like, it's like finally somebody showed up to our games. And so, it was a grind the first couple of years, but then I had the opportunity to go to Greensboro, and that's where it kind of hits, because then all of a sudden you go from one person watching you to 14,000 people watching you, and so it was almost like you have to relearn every step of the way on how to rewire and approach the game with those type of pressures.
Yeah, and then with the amount of work you had to put in, how rewarding was your debut in the majors? I think it was like 2016.
It was. So I came up August of 2016, and I was pitching really well all year, and I just had like this momentum going for me that was honestly just unstoppable at the time, and I was super confident, and I took that with me all the way through the major leagues, and it was crazy. It was just like it was meant to be. It was like everything went my way that year. Like it felt like I was just scooting through competition, and I just kept my nose down and I kept going on.
What do you remember from that first major game? Was it like the feeling of walking into the stadium, just the maybe the emotions of it, being in front of that many people?
I get that question a lot. Like I wasn't really nervous at all for my first game. I didn't really get nervous until I realized that I was in the major leagues. And it took me like a few outings to realize like, oh, I'm here now. And then you start getting some butterflies like going into games, because you're like, there's no more going up from here. All you can do is go down. And so for me, it was like after, a few weeks went by, like settling in finally, I was like starting to get the butterflies. But like the first couple games, I was so locked in. Like every time the phone rang, I was like, oh, this is it. And so it was easy at first, and obviously it gets harder as it goes on.
And then, like you said, being a freshman out here, like you said, scrawny kid, and you're just trying to find your footing, getting your feet wet there, and then to that moment, I mean, did you ever think that could ever happen for you?
Day one in a Northwood jersey, absolutely not. Because I felt like, honestly, I was just kind of an average player. I mean, I always had good talent. I always had a really good arm. But, like, I could never quite put it together. And, I mean, it just seemed like I was going through growing pains a lot. And, like, I would figure something out, and then, like, the next thing I would struggle with, and I could never quite tie it together. And then all of a sudden, you know, like, my junior year rolls around, and I'd go from, 5'8" to 6'3", and, I start filling in a little bit, and then I could finally, I don't know if it's like a baby giraffe syndrome or whatever, but it finally kind of came together, and I got some coordination about me, and, started evolving from there. So, yeah, I think that was the biggest thing, is just getting older, maturing, because I didn't do anything any different than anybody else. I sat in the couch during the summers and played Call of Duty and, hung out with friends and played other sports. And I think I was just, blessed to be able to show up and be able to do what I could do with a baseball.
Yeah, speaking of other sports, I know, I think Rick was telling me 20 out there is actually a soccer number.
Yeah, it is. So it was.
Yeah.
So my thing was, I just wanted to approach this like as humble as I could, and like, to be honest with you, I think I wore like 6 different numbers as a baseball player, but I did wear. Hey, one second, okay?
Does that mean you're in trouble?
Nah, not quite. At least not yet. Yeah, so number 20 I wore in soccer every single year. And, like, my brother wore that number, so it was like a kind of in the family type of thing. And so we ended up going to states and stuff with soccer, and I just kind of wanted to be a little tip of the hat to that because I played, soccer here as well. And I also just didn't want to take a number for one of these guys. Like, I don't even know if anybody even wears the number 20 in baseball. It was more so like a humble approach,
Yeah, I mean, and I want to ask, too, like, with soccer, I guess, how did you balance, because obviously you're pretty good at that, too, right, to be able to lead the team to the state championship. How were you able to balance baseball and soccer in high school?
Well, just, they're in separate seasons, and like for me, like I remember Coach Hall at the time when he was coaching and teaching here, he'd always try to talk me into it. And then I would have a buddy that's playing football. He's like, man, you should really play, while his like collarbone separated. And I'm just like, nah, I'm good, man. And like the next guy comes in, his thumb's pointing backwards. He's like, yeah, I love football. I was like, I bet you do. But I think that's what kind of kept me. And I played soccer growing up and stuff too. What, baby? Can you give me like 10 minutes? Thank you. So I always played soccer growing up. It was kind of my stay in shape sport. And I was fortunate enough, like, same thing with baseball. I came up with kind of a core group of guys that we all played as, young kids together. And so it just made that much more fun for me too.
And then, when you look at your time from, speaking of baseball, from freshman year all the way to the end of your professional career a couple years ago, what's the biggest lesson you'll take away in the thing that baseball taught you in life?
Perseverance, responsibility, accountability. Like I said, you get to that level, everybody's just as good as the next person. I think a lot of it is, and like I honestly, I'm guilty of it because I experienced it a lot. Like my last 2 years is, leading up to that, I only had one mission, and that was to be a big league baseball player, and I never had any other thing on my plate, so to speak. And it got to the point, in my career where like some other things got thrown onto my plate, and you start getting distracted, and your focus starts kind of going elsewhere. And I think that's the biggest thing is like you can do whatever you want to do. I know it sounds cliche, but I rolled with the punches. But I made sure to keep my nose down and not let anything on the outside influence what I was going to be doing in between the lines. And I knew, like, if I just kept working, something good was going to happen. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is just perseverance. And so I just took that as far as I could.
And then, I know you still live in the area, right? Mm-hmm. Here in Pittsboro. So what are you up to these days?
Right now, I'm currently doing, like, some government stuff. But other than that, I'm just hanging out with the family, and I'm watching my kids, grow up and, playing the Little League baseball here in East Chatham, and, just starting the cycle with them and just being the dad, and enjoying, like, not having to be on a plane every 3 days and enjoying not having to be on a bus every 3 days. And I think that's been the biggest thing and the hardest thing at the same time is I'm used to the fast-paced lifestyle and being gone and stuff, and just to be able to sit back has been a big adjustment for me. So it's easier now. I'm 2 years removed, so it's slowed down quite a bit for me. But just take advantage of the time I have with the family, and try to raise them up through the same stuff I came through.
That's all I got for you.
Yes,
Actually,
sir.
I do have a question for you, because Shibo and I talk about this a lot, because when we're running into coaches, you played multiple sports. What's your feeling as to when coaches sometimes go, no, you just need to concentrate on this sport and not play other sports? What's your feeling about student athletes who play multiple sports?
I think it's really important for athletes to play multiple sports. One, it adds another set of tools to the tool shed, because baseball is kind of weird, it's like a very stationary, explosive sport. You're kind of in one spot, but you're doing all these explosive movements, as opposed to, like, you play basketball, you play football, you're moving, you're running, you're doing a lot of other things that you wouldn't normally do in this sport. So just trying to stay as dynamic as possible with your athleticism, I think is the biggest thing, and constantly testing out different mentalities, because your approach to soccer is not going to be the same approach to baseball. So being able to take, the little heres and theres from every sport and try to apply that into something, that you can take, to a college, at the college level or professional level is huge. So I think it's really important to kind of mix things up, and it just gives you a mental break and a physical break. Baseball is an extreme overused sport, so, like, just being able to not throw a baseball for a little bit of time is always good on the body.
One last question. You mentioned that Rick Parks, your coach, made a phone call. This was before social media.
Mm-hmm.
And he started off, that was his first year. It was your first year as well.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about Rick Parks being your coach?
So interesting enough, but I think a majority of people could probably say this. He wasn't the fan favorite, I guess, out of the gate amongst those players, because he was like this, fiery young guy that was just out of college sports himself. And so, he had, and looking back at it now, I completely understand what it was. He just had an expectation for us to be good, like, for lack of better words. And so it was like head to head a lot, I think, my first couple years, but then also, like, it was cool because we all evolved with each other as the years kind of progressed. And so by the time, the senior year rolled around, we were basically a big old family at that point. And so it was really cool that he sat us down. And like I said, I'll remember it for the rest of my life, him sitting us down, just being like, tell me who you want me to reach out with to, and it's up to you guys on how far you want to take it after that.
That's all I got. You got anything else?
Cool.